Rome was built by emperors, but it was defended and expanded by warriors, who were the true strategists behind the conquests that shaped history. The legacies of the Roman Empire weren't just titles. They were the ones responsible for ensuring that Rome remained invincible, leading armies and campaigns that would define the fate of the empire. But what if I told you that these men often determined the future of Rome without their names being remembered in the great chronicles? Today, we're going to dive into the stories of the legates, the leaders who shaped the destiny of Rome on the most dangerous frontiers and in battles that few dared to face. You'll discover the heroes behind the victories that echo to this day. The term legatus was used throughout the vast Roman Empire to designate a figure of military authority, typically a high-ranking officer, directly subordinate to the emperor or the governor of a province. This position, initially reserved for the political elite, evolved over time to become essentially the right hand in military operations, especially in frontier regions. With responsibilities ranging from leading entire legions to administering newly conquered territories, the legatus was crucial for the effective functioning of the Roman war machine. They not only commanded armies, but were also Rome's eyes and ears on the most distant frontiers. In regions where Roman presence was more fragile, such as along the banks of the Rhine or Danube rivers, the legatus was often the last line of defense against invaders. Their decisions on the battlefield not only protected the empire, but also defined its borders. These men were skilled strategists who dealt not only with foreign armies, but also managed the internal politics of the occupied territories. Loyalty to the emperor was crucial, and many legati found themselves in situations where they had to balance Rome's interests with local needs, especially in newly conquered regions. The flexibility of the position allowed the legatus to be not just a military leader, but also a diplomat, negotiating with local tribes and leading campaigns that often needed to be conducted with more political intelligence than brute force. In times of peace, their roles extended to civil administration, ensuring that Roman control was maintained in remote provinces. At the frontiers, especially, a legatus had the ability to change the fate of a campaign with a single decision. Many of these men, however, remained in the shadows of history, with their deeds recorded only in military documents, without the glory attributed to other generals or emperors. The Roman military hierarchy relied on a delicate balance between the centralized leadership of the emperor and the autonomy of commanders in the field. The legatus, as an intermediary between these two forces, needed to be both a man of action and a shrewd politician. They were carefully selected for their loyalty and competence, and often had to act quickly in the face of unexpected challenges. If an emperor entrusted an army to a legatus, it meant that he had deep faith in his ability to maintain order and protect Rome's interests. The influence of legati on the expansion and defense of Rome is undeniable. They oversaw some of the most ambitious campaigns in Roman history and often bore the weight of decisions that would shape the fate of entire nations. Although few have their names prominently inscribed in the annals of history, their actions resonate to this day in the frontiers and ruins of the ancient provinces of the empire. Their adaptability, resilience in combat, and negotiation skills were essential for the survival of the Roman Empire in its most challenging times. Gaius Julius Caesar is undoubtedly one of the most iconic figures in Roman history, both for his role as a politician and as a general. Before becoming dictator, Caesar was a formidable legatus, leading armies that significantly expanded Roman territory. One of his greatest achievements was the conquest of Gaul, a campaign that not only increased the empire's borders, but also solidified Caesar's status as one of Rome's greatest strategists. For years, he conducted military operations in a vast and hostile territory, facing fierce tribes and developing innovative tactics that became benchmarks on the battlefield. Caesar was not just a competent military commander. He was a visionary who understood the value of military propaganda. His accounts of the Gallic War, written in the famous Commentarii de Bello Gallico, were crucial in securing his prestige in Rome. He not only reported his victories, but also shaped the public perception of his campaigns, making his military achievements seem even more grandiose. His ability to combine military tactics with a sophisticated political narrative allowed him to transcend the traditional role of legatus. He controlled not only the battlefield, but also the Roman imagination. During the campaign in Gaul, Caesar encountered formidable enemies, such as Vercingetorix, the leader of the Gallic coalition. The Siege of Alesia was one of the brightest moments of his military career, where his strategic genius shone. With a double siege, he managed to isolate both the city and the Gallic relief forces, a bold maneuver that ensured his victory. This operation not only reinforced Caesar's reputation as a military genius, but also demonstrated how legati had the capability to execute complex and risky tactics in critical moments. Caesar was also a master at adapting his forces to local conditions. He quickly understood that to control Gaul, he needed not only to win militarily, but also to gain the support of some local tribes. By using diplomacy and force in equal measures, he managed to consolidate his control over a vast region. This exemplifies one of the most important characteristics of a legatus: the ability to adapt and govern in regions with cultures and political dynamics completely different from those of Rome. Caesar's success in Gaul transformed him from a respected general into an almost mythical figure in the Roman imagination. Despite his eventual political downfall and assassination, Caesar's military legacy remains undeniable. He shaped the role of the legatus as a visionary strategist, someone capable of operating both on the battlefield and in the political arena. His campaigns in Gaul marked the beginning of a new era for Rome, and his tactics continue to be studied by historians and military strategists to this day. Even in death, Caesar left a lasting example of what it meant to be a legatus, not just a military leader, but an architect of the empire's destiny. Gnaeus Julius Agricola, one of the most prominent legati in Roman history, is widely recognized for his campaigns in Britain, where he left an indelible mark on both the expansion of the empire and the pacification of an inhospitable land. Appointed governor of Britain in AD 77, Agricola quickly realized that conquering and controlling the island required more than just brute force. He combined military skill with smart diplomacy, gaining the support of local tribes while eliminating resistance. His goal was not only to subjugate Britain, but also to integrate it into the vast Roman system, ensuring the region's stability. The Battle of Mons Graupius in AD 83 was one of the most important of his career. With a well-trained and disciplined force, Agricola faced fierce resistance from the Caledonians, led by Germanicus. Although the numbers on both sides are still debated by historians, there is no doubt that Agricola emerged victorious from a battle that could have easily turned against him. This victory not only consolidated Roman control over southern Scotland, but also broke the spirit of resistance among the tribes in the region, allowing Rome to expand its presence further north than ever before. Agricola also understood the importance of consolidating his conquests sustainably. He ordered the construction of forts, roads, and other essential infrastructure to maintain Roman presence in Britain. His use of guerrilla tactics to wear down enemy forces and his ability to operate in unknown and hostile terrain were crucial to the success of his campaigns. Additionally, he encouraged the Romanization of Britain, introducing Roman customs and promoting the adoption of the Latin language among local tribes, which helped ensure a more lasting integration. Despite his military achievements, Agricola was also a skilled administrator. He reorganized the tax system in Britain, ensuring that tax collection was efficient but not oppressive, thus avoiding local revolts. He also made sure that Britain was economically viable for Rome, exploiting the island's natural resources, particularly minerals, which increased its importance in the empire. Agricola exemplifies the dual role of a legatus, not only to conquer, but also to govern effectively. Agricola was one of the few legati whose actions were carefully recorded, thanks to the biography written by his son-in-law, Tacitus. While this account may contain some degree of bias, it offers a detailed insight into one of the most effective leaders in Roman history. Under his leadership, Britain was completely transformed, and the success of his campaigns echoed through generations. He represents the figure of the legatus who combines military savvy with a long-term vision, ensuring that his victories in the field were consolidated into stable and lasting administrations. Germanicus Julius Caesar, one of the most fascinating figures of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, is remembered for his campaigns in northern Europe, where he sought to restore Roman pride after the humiliating defeat in the Battle of the Teutoburg forest. In AD 9, 3 Roman legions were annihilated by the Germans under the leadership of Arminius, a defeat that deeply shook the empire. Years later, Germanicus was tasked with avenging this catastrophe and regaining control over Germania. He embarked on a series of brilliant campaigns, leading his forces across the Rhine and inflicting heavy casualties on the enemy. One of Germanicus's most notable campaigns was the recovery of the lost legionary eagles, the symbols of the legions defeated at Teutoburg. Recovering these standards was of immense symbolic importance to Rome, and Germanicus treated this mission with the gravity it required. In a series of fierce battles against the Germans, he managed to recover 2 of the 3 standards, restoring part of Rome's honor. Although complete military victory was impossible in the dense German forests, Germanicus's victories restored to Rome a sense of superiority that had been shaken. The Battle of Teutoburg, one of Germanicus's major campaigns, took place in AD 16, where he faced the forces of Arminius. Germanicus used his strategic skill to maneuver his army effectively in treacherous terrain, avoiding traps and ambushes. With a renewed Roman army, he dealt a decisive defeat to the Germans, symbolically avenging the catastrophe of Teutoburg. However, the terrain made permanent conquest of the region difficult, and Germanicus was eventually called back to Rome by Emperor Tiberius, who feared his growing military prestige. Although Germanicus was forced to halt his campaigns in the north, his reputation as a legatus was solidified. He was seen as the hero who resurrected Rome after one of the most shameful moments in its military history. His return to Rome was celebrated with a triumph, one of the highest honors awarded to a military commander. However, his career was tragically cut short by his premature death, leading to speculation that he might have been poisoned on Tiberius's orders, who feared his rising popularity. The impact of Germanicus on the Roman imagination was profound, so much so that his son, Caligula, and his grandson, Nero, would go on to become emperors. His legacy was that of a charismatic leader, capable of inspiring unwavering loyalty in his men and restoring Rome's honor in times of crisis. Germanicus's campaigns demonstrated how legati, even when facing adverse conditions and relentless resistance, could alter the fate of Rome and shape the perception of Roman military power in the eyes of its enemies.